While exploring Route 4 in Pokemon Black and White, you take a small detour that leads you to a vast, seemingly untouched desert. Exploring your surroundings further, you come across some desert ruins, and since Route 4 already has a bunch of great Pokemon to choose from, you can't help yourself but to go in and look for potential new team members. And this is where you'll run into the Pokemon Yamask, a ghost-type Pokemon that according to the Pokedex used to be human, but now it's cursed to hold a mask of the face it had when it was still alive, and that feels different from your regular old ghost-type Pokemon, doesn't it? The idea of being a completely different being from what you once were is already bad enough, and on top of that, you have to stare at this mold of your own face of what you used to look like every day. That's horrifying. And while the story of Yamask is tragic and honestly scared the bejesus out of me as a kid, at the same time, it's always piqued my interest. And this story reminded me of how many other ghost stories and sightings there are in Pokemon. And in this video, I wanted to take a look into a few instances of these ghost sightings in some of the older Pokemon games. God, Gen 5 being considered one of the older games reminds me I'm gonna be a ghost soon. To be clear, ghosts, not ghost-type Pokemon. Well, mostly, anyway. So let's get into this little paranormal investigation, shall we? Old school Pokemon did always have a way of appealing to your inner sense of mystery. It's what I feel encouraged exploration. Legends used to be obscured, and information about them was spoon-fed to us little by little, which eventually would pay off with an eventual confrontation with the legendary Pokemon we've spent so much time learning about, which made exploration just feel a lot more rewarding. But to find these answers to these myths and folk tales, we have to explore off the beaten path, and it's through these deviations that we find ourselves exploring unlikely places, and seeing things that may or may not have meant to be seen. Or sometimes it happens in the main story and you'll miss these chance encounters if you aren't paying enough attention. But we'll get to that later. Ghosts appearing in Pokemon games goes as far back as Red and Blue, and I'm not just talking about the ghosts in the Pokemon Tower. Those are the spirits of deceased Pokemon. What I'm referring to is a strange little interaction you can have right outside of the tower. When speaking to this girl, she'll ask you if you believe in ghosts, and if you say no, she'll respond by saying, "Haha, I guess not. That white hand on your shoulder, it's not real." Pretty eerie. And Pokemon Origins actually confirmed the white hand to be a real entity. But along my paranormal investigations, I've had far more intriguing findings than this one. For instance, in Pokemon X and Y, while skating around Lumiose City, you'll find yourself checking out the various office buildings for items and advice to take with you on your journey. And eventually, you'll find yourself in the lobby of a haunted building. Nothing about this office makes it stand out. Even the receptionist in the lobby doesn't know the purpose of the building. Taking the elevator up to the second floor will cause the lights to flicker on and off, and a woman appears, and she just stands there, breathing down your neck. And then she slowly hovers across the floor from behind you, and with nothing more to say to you than, "No, you are not the one." And just like that, she's gone. Vanished into thin air. The only entity in this office space is you, clueless as to what just happened. I remember as a kid, the mystery behind the Lumiose Ghost Girl was all over the internet, with so many unanswered questions of just who was she? I remember exploring the dark alleyways of Lumiose in the hopes of having another sighting of her, or at the very least, a clue as to who she was, or where she might have gone. And while no one ever found any additional sightings of her in Kalos, there is a strange message that can be found on the back of one of the timetables in the train station that says, "I'm going to go for help, wait in the usual place." The common consensus is that this message has something to do with the Lumiose Ghost Girl, only because these cryptic messages seem to line up. She seems to be waiting for somebody. That someone, clearly, is not you. Whoever went to get help, most likely, didn't make it back in time. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, there is a Hex Maniac in Mount Pyre that says the same cryptic message if you speak to her. But unfortunately, there's no proof that these two entities are one and the same. And it could just be a cheeky reference left by Game Freak, given how popular the discussion was around the Ghost Girl at the time. But with nothing else to go off of, for now, this mystery is left unsolved. But we aren't done with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. These games also have their own little ghostly mystery that's hiding in plain sight. But if you don't know where to look, you just might miss it. While taking on the Pokemon League, nothing out of the ordinary seems to be going on, unless you count the sudden level creep. But so far, your league challenge is like any other league challenge. You beat the Dark-type user Sydney, who's probably one of the easiest boss fights in any Pokemon game, and after wiping the floor with him, you move on to the second member of Hoenn's Elite Four, the Ghost-type specialist, Phoebe. Upon entering the room, Phoebe tells you about how her training on Mount Pyre allowed her to learn how to talk to Ghost-type Pokemon, and she accepts your challenge with a big bright smile on her face. Pretty normal friendly interaction, don't you think? If nothing stood out to you in this cutscene, you weren't paying close enough attention. Look at the chair behind Phoebe when the screen goes black. Did you see it? No? Well, with the magic of video editing, I can help you get a closer look. For one single frame, as the screen turns black, there will be the ghost of a little girl sitting in the chair behind Phoebe. And when the scene transitions, you'll notice the camera shakes a bit, and you're being viewed from a bit of an odd angle, as the camera creeps closer to you. What before seemed like an odd choice for camera placement makes a lot more sense when you realize this is the spirit's point of view. She hops down from the chair and walks over to get a better look. And when the scene transitions again, you'll see she's staring right at May, with her not seeming to notice the girl's presence. And it makes you wonder just who this creepy little girl with no sense of personal space is. Unlike the spirit that haunts Lumiose, this question may already have an answer. After beating the game and completing the Delta episode, if you go back to the peak of Mount Pyre, you can eavesdrop on a conversation between Phoebe and a gravestone. When she notices you're there, she says that her grandma was just talking about you, and you seem to have left a lasting impression on her. Which is odd because you've never met her grandma. Or have you? It's most likely that the ghost that resides in Phoebe's room could be her grandmother, and she seems to just hang out with Phoebe while she's working, as they seem to be pretty close, even though she's already dead. This hasn't been outright confirmed by Game Freak yet, but it seems to be the most likely answer based off the details we have. So for now, we'll just say this case is kinda solved. Sinnoh is no stranger to experiencing strange phenomena. I personally chalk it up to Sinnoh being the epicenter of creation in the Pokemon world. Putting it simply, weird shit happens here. And there are two ghostly encounters of note in Sinnoh. The first being the old chateau. Nestled deep in Eterna Forest stands this impressive building concealed only by the trees that surround it. Well, that and needing cut in the Eterna gym badge, but you know what I mean. The local gym leader, Gardenia, mentions that there are a lot of ghost Pokemon in there, but there have also been rumors of sinister shadows that have supposedly been seen in the mansion. Gardenia gets rather spooked and takes off after wishing you luck with your investigation. Awesome. Thanks for the help. It couldn't hurt to see if there are any ghost types worth catching, so we head inside. And Gardenia was right. If you go into this room with a TV in it late at night, you see something staring back at you. Thumping the TV gets you a chance encounter with Rotom. So the rumors of strong ghost Pokemon were definitely true. Unfortunately, so was the other rumor. When exploring the rooms in the hallway we found Rotom in, upon entering one of the rooms, we can see the ghost of a little girl hover across the floor. But a detail I find interesting about this is the girl is only visible to the player looking at the screen. Then why does the player's character freeze in place? It's almost like they could feel her presence. Heading into the room she was in gives us no further clues or even a trace of her even being there. All that's on the floor is a TM for the move Substitute. With something that useful just laying around, it's probably worth looking around for some more useful items for the long journey ahead. After searching the house some more, we eventually stumble into the dining room, where we see the ghost of an old man hover into the kitchen. And once again, he vanished without a trace. Given the fancy attire the man was wearing and the rare and expensive items scattered around the house, I would assume that this must have been the butler of the manor, given how high-end the place looks like it once was. But that's only speculation on my end. Later on in our journey, after making our way out of Mount Coronet, we find ourselves trekking through Route 217, where we have to combat a heavy snowstorm and tough trainers on our way to Snowpoint City. Pushing through the blizzard slowly, stomping through the blankets of snow, and just as you and your Pokemon team are about to tire out, just barely out of sight between the heavy falling flakes, is a lone cabin. Finally, another cabin we can hopefully heal up in. Seeking momentary refuge from the harsh battles and elements, we head inside, hoping the owner offers some healing hospitality. But instead, this cabin isn't warm and inviting like the others that let us in. It's cold and unsettling. The lights turned off, with the only light peeking through coming from the windows. The only presence being a lone woman fidgeting about in the dark. She doesn't seem hostile when spoken to. In fact, she comes off as welcoming in her own unsettling way. A person? A rare sight. Thank you for visiting. A gift. She then gives the player a spell tag, an item that buffs the power of ghost-type moves. She doesn't have much to say other than that, and she doesn't seem to like looking you in the eyes unless spoken to. Heading back outside to continue our journey to Snow Point, we recall something one of the trainers we faced in the area said. Around these parts, perhaps because of all the snow, there are many folk tales of hauntings. My curiosity getting the better of me, I head back to the cabin the strange woman called home, only to find that she's nowhere to be seen. According to some ghost-type Pokemon specialists like Unova's Shauntal, these reported hauntings could be the work of a Pokemon called Frosslass, a ghost type that's rumored to be the spirit of a woman that was lost on an icy mountain reborn as this Pokemon. Given the abundance of its unevolved form Snorunt in the area, I'm inclined to believe these rumors. And if these rumors turn out to be true, then it's a good thing we ran into a friendly Frosslass. This last ghost sighting is more than just a chance encounter with the spirit. This is a storyline that spans over the course of multiple Pokemon games and was the main reason why I wanted to make this video. So bear with me as I recount the tale of Cresselia and the Strange House. Our final story begins rather simple. Like some of the other ghosts we've speculated on in this video, it begins with just another sighting. In Pokemon Black and White, after beating the main story, you get access to the other half of the map that was previously blocked off to you. To get to Eastern Unova, the quickest way would be to go east from Nimbasa and to take the Marvelous Bridge. The bridge stretches across the vast Unovan Sea, and other than the sketchy Magikarp salesman, it's a rather uneventful crossing. That is, until we reach the Eastern Tunnel. We see a man and a little girl staring out at sea. Assuming they're local to the area, I'd like to know more about these parts. But as I approach the girl, she vanishes into thin air. And the man I assumed to be her father is just as shocked as I was. This girl, most likely, was never really there. Or was she? Talking to an old lady inside the East Gate, she mentions that there used to be a girl that would play with her Abra around here. And Abra is known for teleporting out of sight frequently, so it could very well be that this girl and her Abra could be playing tricks on those who were crossing the bridge, and I could have just fallen for it. But with not much more information to go off of, this mystery remained just that, a mystery. Until 2 years later. In Pokemon Black and White 2, a lot has changed in 2 years' time in Unova. It's practically an entirely different experience traveling through the region this time. More Pokemon from other regions have migrated to Western Unova, more caves have been discovered, and the Pokemon League has reworked where and who the gym leaders are. And improved aerial trade routes have made the more rural parts of Eastern Unova accessible to us. And after beating the Mistralton gym leader Skyla, who happens to be a pilot, she offers to take us across the region closer to our next gym battle on her way to deliver supplies to the landlocked Lentimas town. Upon arriving, we can see the town is very small. With very few people living here, the only connection they have with the rest of civilization is the runway where supplies are dropped off. The lack of people and progress is most likely due to the town being so close to Reversal Mountain. Depending on which version you're playing, the mountain has either recently erupted or has erupted in the past. The people of Lentimas Town have built their homes from volcanic clay since the desert around the mountain prevents trees for lumber from growing. The area harsh, the people brave. Leaving Lentimas Town, we follow a subtle trail leading away from the mountain that leads to a lone abandoned house. And inside, the truth to a 2-year-long mystery. Upon entering the house, we see that it's in shambles. Furniture scattered across the room, walls stained with decay. The only light in the house emanating from outside the shattered windows. The only sounds, the creaking of the floorboards. What I would hope is just the house settling, but I know it's never that simple. The furniture shakes as if possessed, and it blocks us from entering certain rooms. Heading into the only room we can, we explore the parts of the house that it allows us to, finding 2 other trainers in the house whose curiosity got the better of them. It's almost comforting knowing we aren't alone in this house. Almost comforting. Each time we exit a room, the furniture shifts across the floor in an almost guiding path. The house has a set path in mind for us. Against my better judgment, we head upstairs to find the girl from Marvelous Bridge appear before us out of thin air. She doesn't face us, but knows we're listening. An everlasting dark dream. An endless dream of darkness. Dad? Mom? Abra? Where are you? Continuing the house tour our host offers us, we can now ascend the central staircase that was previously blocked off. The girl appears again. In the dark dream, I hear my dad's voice. Forget about the lunar wing. Please stay here with me. She finally clears a path to the final room for us, as if she was inviting us in. Unlike the other rooms, this room sits almost untouched. Where the other rooms have decayed over time, this one lays preserved, with a lone item laying in the middle of the floor. The lunar wing. Oh, the lunar wing. I can't take it now, but it'll be okay. Please return the wing to the Pokemon. I was waiting on the bridge so I could return it myself. With one final request, she vanishes. There's a lot of clues to speculate on here, so let's start at the beginning of her story. The girl mentions an everlasting dark dream that seemingly she can't wake up from. She mentions being able to hear her father talk, but she isn't able to respond to him, pleading with him to stay while trapped in a dark void. By reading through the books in the library, we can see the family was trying to narrow down what phenomena caused their daughter to never wake. Books detailing the hunting habits of the Pokemon Drowsy and Hypno, other books about the moves Dream Eater and an ability called Forewarn. But these trails must have gone cold because the girl obviously didn't wake up. And Drowsy and Hypno are uncommon in Unova, especially this far northeast. The family eventually acquired some books that details two Pokemon, one that caused the problem, and the other, the solution. There's a Pokemon called Darkrai in the far Sinnoh region. To protect itself, it drives people and Pokemon away with terrible nightmares. This lines up with the girl speaking of an everlasting dream. In fact, a similar event occurred in Pokemon Platinum. What'd I tell you? Weird shit. Sinnoh. Always happening. All the time. In Canalave City, Sailor Eldritch's son falls into a deep sleep coma, and he can be heard muttering to himself, Dark is watching me. According to the boy's mother, this has happened in Canalave many times before, and to remedy the problem, all it takes is a trip to Full Moon Island to get a lunar wing from Cresselia, whose wings are said to shine like the crescent moon and keep nightmares away. Visiting Cresselia's nest, it will disappear, leaving behind a lunar wing to cure the boy. A much happier ending than the Ghost of Marvelous Bridge got. Since this phenomena happening in Unova is uncommon, it was probably much more difficult to actually find information detailing how to heal the girl. Even more so given the fact that the town of Lentimus is so disconnected from the rest of the world. And her father, presumably traveling from Unova all the way to Full Moon Island in Sinnoh, simply took too long. We can see he brought a wing back with him, but it was too late. The girl succumbed to her nightmares and never woke again. My assumption is that the family abandoned their home soon after, and that the lunar wing was left here as a memento to their daughter. The Strange House isn't just a house, it's a grave. The story of the Strange House is a tragic one for everyone involved. A mother and father who weren't able to save their daughter in time, whose spirit just needed someone to hear her story and fulfill her last request. And before you assume the Pokemon responsible had malicious intent, I would take a step back for a second. While there are many reports of Darkrai causing people to become trapped in their own nightmares, I presume that this nightmare effect is something the Pokemon has little control over, as if it's caused by being in close proximity to it. Darkrai is reported to isolate itself from people and Pokemon in an effort to avoid harming those around it, but perhaps it can't go far away enough. The island it supposedly calls home in Sinnoh is far away from civilization, but it clearly isn't far enough, due to the fact that it seems to be affecting the people of Canalave City enough to the point where the people know how to deal with it, being a somewhat common occurrence. And it could be aware of this, so maybe it roams the world failing to find a place to truly be alone, and affecting those it gets near on its travels. Or maybe it's a similar phenomena to entering Silent Hill. Maybe Darkrai's nightmare world can affect you from anywhere. The Pokédex does say it doesn't mean to do harm, but this is all speculation on my end that I just find fascinating. Whether intentional or not, the damage has already been done. This girl has been through enough. And the least we can do is return the lunar wing to Cresselia, who supposedly will one day fly over the Marvelous Bridge on its travels. As we cross the bridge, The lunar wing begins to shine. We hold it into the air, and Cresselia flies down to retrieve its wing. Then we challenge her to a battle and catch her. And while fulfilling the girl's last request, we've made a new friend in Cresselia, and finally solved a mystery 2 years in the making. I can only hope that doing this brought the Ghost of Marvelous Bridge peace, and that her nightmare is now over. And with that, my little paranormal investigation into the world of Pokemon is over. There are a few more instances of ghosts showing up in some of the newer Pokemon games, and those are neat. They just didn't really hit me the same as these old ghost stories when making this video, so I chose to just cover the ones I liked. This was a little different than the type of videos I usually make, but since it's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon this year, I wanted to make a video that covered one of my favorite aspects of the series: the awesome lore and world building. I loved this kind of creepy stuff in Pokemon growing up because it encouraged me to explore these games more thoroughly and to learn more about the ins and outs of one of my favorite fictional worlds. I love Pokemon because of cool, crazy shit like this, and I wanted to celebrate the series by making a cool little lore video. I plan on making some more Pokemon content this year, so I hope you like Pokemon because I want to do more Pokemon stuff. If you like this video and want to see me make more videos like this, let me know. If you hate my guts, also let me know in the comments below. And if you really liked it, maybe consider subscribing. That would be really, really cool of you. And hey, either way, I appreciate you. And I hope you have a good one. See you guys next time.